And a very good evening to everyone, and welcome to CrowCast Weekend Wrap for this week. Another sad and sorry state of affairs for the Adelaide Crows, unfortunately. But there'll be plenty of talk in the chat for those that have stayed up a little bit later to join us. And I'm welcoming and joined by Macca. How you going, Macca?
About the same as you, mate.
And Nikki, how you going?
Is it really bad that I'd much rather be writing a uni assignment right now?
Oh, bad, yes. Understandable, yes. And welcome to those in the chat that have joined us at this later hour. Apologies for the later time, but it's a bit beyond our control when the AFL decide to schedule a 4:10 Sunday afternoon game. Anyway, let's not be too down in the mouth today, but let's start off with looking at the scores for the weekend's round. And Friday night, what an extravaganza Friday night was, guys. Sydney Carlton at the SCG. Did anyone watch it, and does anyone remember it?
Well, I didn't. I went and saw Spam a lot, and I pissed myself laughing at that. I had a very good evening.
Was that a Monty Python thing, is it?
Yep, it's a Monty Python, the Holy Grail. But it was a send-up of that even. It was just very, very well done and very funny, and I enjoyed the evening.
Wow, there you go.
It's a musical version of the Holy Grail.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think Titus O'Reilly had an absolute brilliant tweet during that game, which was he wanted to know if any of us actually find the Channel 7 commentary team as funny as they all seem to think each other are.
Oh, no. It's it actually turns me off watching games that don't involve the Crows, to be honest with you, because I can't stand the drivel.
Yeah, spot on.
It's a mess. But anyway, let's not dwell on that. Sydney, obviously, 91-61 over Carlton on Friday night. Hooray. Saturday, we had Melbourne giving the Bulldogs a bit of a shellacking, 100-51, and, irrespective of our personal feelings on how last year went down, commiserations, obviously, to Jake Lever for doing an ACL that's been confirmed today. Bit of bad news for the lad.
Yeah, you don't wish those injuries on anybody. Doesn't matter what team they play for. You don't mind them getting a knock on the head and perhaps going off for no, I mean, it's not bad, but just...
Actually, Macca, a knock on the head's probably worse.
Yeah, I'm just talking about a gentle tap so they don't play against you for the rest of the game, Nikki. But you don't want them out permanently, that's what I'm getting at. Maybe a twisted ankle then, Nikki, if you're happy.
Yeah, twisted ankle. Yeah, no, bad news. Probably gives a good indication of why Jake was so keen to take the money.
Well, he's got the money.
Yep.
It would be actually interesting to see what his contract negotiations were as to how much of that he'll actually get. That could impact quite not so well on Melbourne's bottom line.
Yeah, well, I doubt whether he would have gone over there if there was any sort of injury clause. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Just on the match itself, I was so delighted when the Hawthorn Port one started because it was a terrible game to watch. The Bulldogs are crap. They're an utter crap. And somehow, I don't know how, from being premiers 2 years ago, Luke Beveridge seems to somehow have lost this group because I'm sure he's not telling them to play like this, that they're playing very, very ordinary football.
I think my own impression is that Beveridge was a very emotive coach, so he certainly developed a bit of a siege mentality that year for the Bulldogs, a bit of us against them, bit of history making, is very, arms around his players and all that sort of all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to coach, and you've got to be able to make moves, you've got to be able to make decisions, you've got to be able to implement, resilient game plans, and I don't know whether he cuts it. They do well to keep him on and stick a nice strategic coach underneath him to get some sort of system going, because at the moment it just seems like they're just running on instincts and there doesn't seem to be any discernible pattern to their play. really.
I think what it's showing is how much those senior players controlled that game on the field, and with the loss of Murphy, etc., that's really impacted.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Nick.
It is a good point.
Port and Hawthorn fought out a very entertaining game down at UTAS in Tasmania. Hawthorn getting the chocolates in the end with, I'm going to say, a couple of dubious Matthew Nichols contributions to the end there.
Free kick Hawthorn, was that in play, was it?
I mean, I think the rush behind was probably there, but Jared Rufford's high tackle to seal the deal, he's burrowed in there, and Matthew Nichols couldn't get that whistle to his mouth quick enough. Hawthorn 64 to Port 61 in the end.
I would think Port have every right to feel very hard done by. And I think you highlighted one of the incidents, and I thought there were quite a few of them. But I thought that there's no doubt that Port were the better team on the day in many respects, except one, and that is disposal. Their disposal is below AFL standard, in my opinion, and the Hawks, with lesser ability, their disposal is very, very good, and I think that was the difference between the two teams, plus umpire Nichols.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how Hawthorn played Port. They really played a stop-start kind of game. But in the end, as someone says in the chat quite rightly, PJ Crows says F Port. So, yep, absolutely. Next.
Just on that note, if you kick 5 goals in the first quarter and then 4 for the rest of the game, yeah, it's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, well, Hawthorn just started playing keepers up after that. Geelong gave Gold Coast a good old-fashioned shellacking. I think Gold Coast are cooked, and even having the bye, I think that first block of games has really cooked their season. The AFL have really sacrificed the Gold Coast Suns this year, and Geelong making short work of them, 121 to 36 down at Metricon. They're not going to draw too many crowds if they're kicking 6 goals in a game.
Yeah, well, you're quite right. I did watch quite a bit. It was terrible to watch, actually.
Yeah. West Coast and St Kilda, I didn't see it, but I think St Kilda, by all reports, were in the game for a reasonable amount of time before West Coast got over the top, 101 to 88.
No. So
other way around.
Yeah, parents watched this one. West Coast kind of built. St Kilda just kind of kept in touch, and then the last quarter they really put a whole lot of pressure on. Was it 6 goals, I think, Macca?
It was 6.
And they had absolute chances to, win it, but once again, their field kicking let them down.
Yeah, they had a very, very dominant last quarter, St Kilda. The game seemed to be just meandering along to a very, very comfortable West Coast Eagles win. Jack Darling went down and looked very serious when he went down originally, but it looks like it may be nothing more than a severely sprained ankle, and I hope that is the case. And after that, their attack was not as potent, and St Kilda got on top in the last quarter and dominated towards the end of the game. And I think another 10 minutes in that game, they might have well got up. But a very good effort by St Kilda, anyhow.
Yeah. Saturday evening also we had Richmond and Essendon playing the Dreamtime game. Richmond winning convincingly in the end, 114 to Essendon 43. But I don't know about you lot, but to me, Essendon aren't that far away. They just need an avenue to goal. I felt like their general field play was pretty reasonable, but I think they lack a couple of pillars, one at either end.
Yeah, I saw some of that game, and you're quite right. They are lacking up forward. Joe Danner, is he out omitted at the moment? Is he?
Groin injuries.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because they certainly miss his height up there in the goal square.
It's very interesting about groin injuries, because for a while there, the OP, the dreaded OP, was gone for a while, and now it seems to be back in vogue.
Well, it does. Well, certainly in our club it does.
We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. We had North and Brisbane at Etihad today. North Melbourne continuing their good form, 141-87. Brisbane couldn't really go with them, although they still made a good account of themselves. Dane Beams had a good game by reports, and I still am a little bit bullish over Brisbane over the next couple of years. I think they're a team on the improve, but North certainly going well.
I saw that game.
Why was Charlie in a moon boot?
Beg your pardon?
Apparently Charlie was in a moon boot.
Yeah, no,
Charlie,
I'm not sure.
Charlie injured his leg, and I don't know what he's actually done to his leg, but it's the bottom part of his leg and his foot, and he was in a moon boot for the last quarter and a bit. So he's obviously going to be out for a few weeks, you'd think, if that's going to be the case. But again, North Melbourne were going to win by a lot more, and Brisbane got a few goals towards the end, Dane Beams in particular. Not much of a game, other than the fact that North Melbourne were far too good.
Yeah. Collingwood today, too good for Fremantle at the G, 138-77. Collingwood making our mockery of Peter J on Tuesday Night Live and his early season predictions, comfortably in the 8 at the moment. And Fremantle just going, I think.
Yep, and Fife was tagged, and he didn't play a very good game at all, in my opinion. And he should be. There's a very good chance he could be outed. He did give somebody a nice elbow to the head. They did show other ones that have got off with a fine, and it's pretty similar to those. So it's a bit of a touch and go whether Fife, who is one of the Brownlow medal favourites, will get time or whether he'll just get a fine.
Yeah, he's surrounded by a vanilla midfield at Fremantle at the moment, and Collingwood, arguably one of the better midfields in the comp, so not surprising he got blanketed.
Well, that's exactly right, yes.
Yeah. So, and then of course we had this evening's game, or this afternoon's game, which we'll talk about momentarily, but the ladder as it stands after round 11, we have West Coast on top, 133%. We have Richmond clear second, Melbourne and Sydney third. Then we have a game to Geelong, North Melbourne and Collingwood. And then 3 teams on 24 points, Port in the 8, Adelaide and Hawthorn just out of the 8. That game next week against Hawthorn becomes pretty big, guys, or the week after I should say. GWS riding the ship a little bit today, also on, or just 2 points back on 22. Then Essendon, Fremantle and Western Bulldogs on 16 points. Gold Coast on 12 points. St Kilda on 6 and Brisbane and Carlton on 4 points. So,
yeah, well, the interesting thing is that when you look at it, they normally say that about this stage of the season that the 8's almost settled, but far from that, I think. There's probably at least 10 chances for that, for those 8 positions, because although we are in a poor position, we're down to 9th, we're 2 games behind, I think it's the 3rd team. And there's still half a season to go. So on form, I can't see us making great inroads until we get some decent players back, and also a bit of form back as well. But at this stage, as I say, there's 10 teams vying for 8 spots.
All right, well, let's get into it and talk about the Crows v Giants, shall we?
Get ugly. Damn, that's ugly.
Getting uglier for Adelaide, guys. Getting uglier, unfortunately. And I did actually think this would be the case. A lot of people tipped Adelaide to bounce back, but it's not easy to come back off a 91-point defeat. And notwithstanding the fact we're at home against a similarly struggling GWS, we always knew that if they brought their best, they'd be hard to beat with our current squad. And that was the case. GWS getting up 14 goals, 13, 97 to Adelaide, 11 goals, 1581, a margin of 16 points. Go your hardest, people.
Well, I'm just having sort of an online conversation with PJ Crozier. He is of the same opinion as me that the move from Miller to the forward line and Mackay going back to half back in his place was almost a match-losing move in our opinion, because Miller, when he was in the back lines, was distributing the ball quite well to the forward lines because he is a thinker and he's got skill. Mackay just charges blindly down the field. And I just think that also Miller he never goes quite as well to the forward line because he's not running in the same direction. He's got to get it, twist, turn, etc. And he's also got he's got somebody who pays a lot more attention to him rather than the other way around. So I thought that was a very, very poor coaching move. And had a big effect on the game, I thought.
Nikki, you're very quiet. What do you reckon?
I actually didn't mind it so much, Macca, because being at the ground and seeing that was one of his better forward games I've actually seen him play, and he was attacking the ball quite well. We were using him the high half forward because we're lacking that extra one down there, and he's got some speed. That's what our team just severely lacks at the moment is speed. I didn't mind him so much in the forward line, Macca.
Yeah, but you're missing the point, the distribution to the forward line.
Yeah, it was Rob Peter to pay Paul, and I think Miller had played pretty well. Yeah, but robbed us of so much run off
distribution to the forward line was just shocking from almost everyone. I think I can highlight out like Eddie's pass to Fogarty was just superb, but almost every other entry we got into our forward line was just shit.
That is my whole point, Nicky.
That's the point. Miller,
but it's not just the Mackay and Miller, which is what you were highlighting. It was all of them.
But that one stood out because Miller, I thought, had a good game, and I thought his first half in particular, when he had the ball, and when he distributed the ball, he's got quality in the way he distributes it.
Miller has had a fantastic start to the season running off halfback.
He had.
And it just seemed to me that he'd found his niche running at the ball and, not having to turn and just being able to use his foot skills and his speed. And I just felt like, given our defence is just full of lockdown players and plotters and
Exactly.
The one bloke, they'll say that D-Mac can do that, but he really doesn't do it to the same effectiveness as Wayne's been doing it. And the one bloke that can do it, and we took him out of there.
Yep. And the other big difference between the two teams was the fact in the forward line. I thought JJ actually tried very, very hard, but he can't clunk those overhead marks. Whereas
not when he's being held onto, even before the ball gets anywhere near there.
Well, I think we do it down the other end as well, though, Nikki. And
oh no, Macca,
Daniel Talia does it all the time.
He's clever about it though. He does
but he does it still. He does it still.
He actually does because he lets go. It's that body contact. He has the arms around, but he doesn't grab as much as what they were doing. What they got away with in the first quarter, and they did it for the rest of the game, it was just shocking. There should have been at least 350 metres paid during this game.
You understand that the freeze were 27-13. Oh, come on, Nikki.
No, that doesn't matter. No, that shouldn't be even if one team is continually stepping up. Like Patton goes over the mark every single time, never gets called back. They were hanging on. The Shaw always grabs at the legs to trip a player over as they mark, so they fall down, so they can't get up. We can't get the run and play going on. That should be a 50. There's all those kind of little things that they're allowed to get away with. There were so many throws. It was just shocking, absolutely shocking umpiring. And we played shit, but you still actually want those umpires to umpire correctly.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't want blaming the umpires. I think it was more the fact that, what I was making the point of, Cameron and Himmelberg, they clunked a few marks up forward. We just couldn't clunk them like they could. Well, Fogarty, he did a couple, and that one goal he kicked, that was phenomenal in the last quarter, in a pressure goal like that, and just showed just how good this boy is eventually going to be when he develops into a man. At this stage, he's really still a boy at 18, and he's going to be one hell of a player when he matures to whatever level he's going to be, which I think is going to be super level. But as we are today, we just didn't have anybody who could just take advantage of those attacks that we had.
No, we were very ineffective. Let's run through some head-to-head stats and see whether we can make some sense of the rubbish. 377 to 364 disposals. Disposals were quite even. Both teams went at a similar kick-to-handball ratio. 65 marks to 70. Let me just have a look at the marks inside. 56 to 10 in GWS's favour. Tackles 96 to 75, and that was one key difference. GWS, particularly in the first quarter when they had 30-odd tackles to 8 or something, really showed their intent, and it's the first time really that, for quite some time anyway, that I think we've seen a GWS side prepared to get their hands dirty. And it rattled Adelaide early on. It really did. We didn't cope with the pressure very well at all, despite being in front at quarter time. I felt like they just let the foot off the throat there for a second, GWS, and we got a couple of late ones, but then by half time we were back down 3 goals. Hit-outs... Go on.
Sorry, no, you keep going.
All right, hit-outs 48 to 44, but I felt like we don't have access to a effective hit-out stat, but I felt like Source continually chucked it down GWS's throats, and I don't know whether it's Source's fault or whether it's the setup and positioning of the players around the stoppage. We won clearances 52 to 40. Where's our breakdown? Stoppage clearances, we won 39 to 26. Centre clearances were even, and yet it just seemed to me that the clearances that they got were far more effective than the ones that we got.
Oh, well, Gibbs was our clearance king. He was very, very good around the clearances. But they had I don't know whether it's Coniglio or Coniglio.
Both.
Coniglio.
Anyhow, whichever way he likes it, he was outstanding in the first half. He is such a good footballer. He's tough, he's fast, he's clever, he's got a magnificent ability, and although we were getting a lot of the taps, he was the one in particular in the first half that was sharking him, and until they put in Gibson onto him in the second half, and also they said he had a bit of concussion as well. But look, he's a star, that boy, and he caused us a lot of pain in the first half.
Most certainly. Freeze, as I mentioned, we've got a ride. Go on, Nick.
Just on the midfield thing. So when Gibbs went bunter in that last quarter, we were starting him facing our forward line. Starting him from that back area, and he's just running straight at the ball. And he went nuts, and they couldn't stop him. He was reading the taps beautifully. They were being tapped at him beautifully. And then we changed up in the second half of the last quarter and had him facing defence and brought on Matt Crouch and put him in that position. And what happened? GWS got a roll on.
Mm.
That was poor. We needed to keep Gibbs in that position. He is so much more proactive than Crouch is.
Yeah, well, we can talk about Scotty Camperelli at some point if you like, but I've never been a fan. Look, what else have we got here? Our disposals per goal, disposals per scoring shot were up around 14.5. Not as good in terms of conversion as we would have liked. Clearances we've gone through. Rebound 50s, 34 to 43. GWS really did get some bounce off their half back line, and we struggled to maintain possession in our forward half for long periods of the game. We actually won the inside 50s, 57 to 53, but it just shows that we had no cohesion. Macca up forward, as you pointed out previously.
Referee's rules, it was.
It was an absolute mess. They don't know what they're doing. It seems like they don't know where to stand at the moment. I mean, yes, we've got a couple of keys out, and we're relying on a young kid who did really well today in Darcy Fogarty, and Jenkins, who was hardly sighted. Score involvements 106 to 98. Metres gained 6-1 to 6-4. Those sort of we turned the ball over a bit more than they did, and their tackles inside 50, 15 to 8 shows their intent in terms of the pressure. Look, as a general comment, I just felt like we've become victim to our injuries to the extent now that the next man up is no longer good enough simply because we're playing too many blokes out of positions or we're adjusting roles. Miller was one that we highlighted. I think D-Max played out of position. I think we got a couple of blokes who shouldn't be in the team at the moment who are there just because they need to be. We got plenty of the ball. We just didn't use it very well, I didn't think.
No, you're 100% right about that. And particularly going into the forward lines, and it would have been a bit of a nightmare being one of our forwards, although the way the game was played, and I just can't work out why always our forward line looked clogged and theirs looked open. And
because they had 3 extra players in it.
Well, it worked.
And that's when they do the run and gun. And because they've got those 3 extra players, we're just because we want to keep it free, we don't send our other players in to man them up. It means you can get that outmatched or that extra player running through because it's oh, hang on, who am I manning up on?
I've never seen a tactic where we don't man up loose defenders work. Have you? Geelong have done it against us quite regularly. Hawthorn do it.
And they beat us. And they beat us every time.
Every time. I don't understand. I know it puts extra players around the contest, but if you allow 3 defenders in the back half and the ball gets turned over, as it probably will because they've got 3 defenders, then all of a sudden they've got outlets. And I struggle to understand why we're so hesitant to man up the extras down back. Even if you end up having 18 in one, you just got to keep calling the bluff, in my opinion. Doesn't make any sense.
I think our coaching staff have got a lot to answer for today in the sense that I thought, and if you have a look at the stats, they are pretty similar all round. But it's what happened with those stats that is so vastly different. And I don't think our coaching staff got too many ticks for today.
No, but I think... Look, to be perfectly fair, I think there was a couple of howlers at selection. There's got to come a point where David McKay and Rory Atkins are held accountable.
Rory Atkins, geez.
Rory Atkins had a really bad game today, and he continues to pull out or not make an effort to reach contests. And he's got to be held accountable. He shouldn't be untouchable. And I understand that we're light on for numbers, but we've got a couple of blokes in the 2s that probably deserve a crack. Paddy Wilson, Curtly Hampton, both fit and firing in the Bs. They need to be played.
And we know Paddy Wilson is strong at the contest.
Yep. And I know we need pace outside, and I know one of the criticisms of our current setup
is doesn't have pace.
Exactly. That was going to be my point. People assume because he's an outside player he's quick, but he's actually not. He takes those little shuffling steps, and he doesn't cover the ground to any great degree. And they need to hold him accountable. And as I said, the same with David McKay. I mean, David McKay hasn't had a bad season this season. But it was pitiful today from David McKay.
Well, he was very ordinary. And as you said, he hasn't had a bad year. And the one thing I will say about David McKay, unlike Atkins, he's not a squib.
No.
But he hasn't, unfortunately today, but he's limited with his ability.
It's just ineffective. one contested possession today in a highly contested game. Anyway, let's go through some individual stats and we'll get to those blokes. Bryce Gibbs, 36 touches, was pretty good. 21 kicks, 15 handballs, particularly after half time and especially in the last quarter, I felt.
Did his best to win the game for us. I mean, he really did bust his ass. And I did comment to Mrs. Macca, you watch this guy, and when he hasn't got a lot of pace, but he has the ability to create time and space without doing very much, and he's a very clever footballer.
Yep.
There were two instances, though, where he was very Carlton, that he waited for them to get the ball. One of them worked because he then tackled the player and held it up in a forward line. But there was another one, you could see him, he actually punched his hand afterwards, like, damn it, I should have gone in. But it was very much that Carlton mindset of, I have to wait for them to get the ball and then tackle them instead of just going in hard himself. But they were the only two. It was a much improved over the past couple of weeks of what we've got from Bryce.
Well, I'll forgive him for that, Nicky. I thought overall his game was excellent.
Yeah, he did. I mean, we called for a bit of a step up from Bryce last week. We felt that he was tailing off a bit, and I felt like he was back to the player that we purchased. 5 marks, 9 tackles, 4 inside 50s, 9 clearances, 4 rebound 50s, 15 contested possessions. Disposal efficiency a little bit low, but he was no orphan there, that's for sure. 6 stoppage clearances, 8 score involvements, 522 metres gained. Pretty good from Bryce today. Matty Crouch also had 36, but the opposite ratio, 13 kicks and 23 handballs, 3 marks, 5 tackles, 3 inside 50s, 7 clearances, had 18 contested possessions, playing inside just under 64% disposal efficiency, 5 score involvements and 6 intercepts for 350 metres gained. I thought it was an almost game from Matty this week.
Well, I was going to say it was a good game, but not a hurtful game. You know, he didn't hurt the opposition a lot, even with his number of possessions. But look, he does go in and he reads the play well, he gets the ball well, but as I say, I didn't think he hurt them a lot with what he did. And as Simon Moyle just put on the chat, he keeps handballing to a player less than 2 metres from him. It's just 2 players far too close.
Yep.
If he was getting the handballs fired out to somebody like 6-10 metres away that's out in the open, then they could just go, then they'd be good handballs. But
I think we mentioned last week that since he's come back, and I think Mark Angus has also made this comment on the chat, he's gone back to how he was when he first started, and I think that's because he's not quite right, or he's still coming back from his injury, and he can't break free. He doesn't seem to have as much time and space with the ball, and so he's not lifting the eyes.
Yeah, and look, and stealing again what's written in the chat, I think PJ's quite right that he's aware of his hamstrings, and he's had 2 this season already, so he's just not go that extra little yard, so he's moving the ball on very quickly, which means why he's giving it to somebody so close all the time.
Now, interesting that in that third quarter when we were pressuring and keeping it in our forward line, we were going man on man, we were turning the ball back over and we kept kicking it back in, and then we had an interchange rotation and Matt Crouch comes on. And all of a sudden, bang, the pressure is gone that was there. It was from the midfield. That was just so obvious to me that it was that change. He just wasn't putting that pressure on, whereas the rest were working so hard. And as soon as you have that one link fall out of that type of chain, it just falls to water. And that's what happened.
Yeah. And I think
that's what's annoying me about him at the moment.
Yeah, but it's not Matt Crouch's style of play, Nicky, and given that he's had 2 hammies in 4 weeks after never having one in his life, yeah, I think it's a reasonable assumption to make that he's not quite right.
Yeah, but what it means is if you're going to, or if you're organising those rotations, you can't have him, Greenwood, and Cam Ellis-Yeoman on. They're not quick enough.
No, and I was going to raise that at the end, and it's a really good point. I think our the balance in our midfield at the moment is all over the shop, and it's mud slow, and they need to work on rotate. Like again, we haven't seen a Miller or a Betts or a Rory Laird through there, and at times, we had the three inside midfielders in the centre bounce, and it just doesn't work. We just don't have any spread.
Too slow, yeah.
Lairdy, 30 touches again, 17 of 13, 6 marks, 3 tackles, 3 clearances, 6 rebound 50s, 14 contested possessions, 9 intercepts, but also 9 turnovers. Again, I thought Rory tried hard, but as the game wore on, I felt like he sort of fell out of it a little bit.
At least he gives an honest performance.
And they were tagging him, which was kind of funny. And he had like he was the leading possession winner after the first quarter. I'm like, yeah, that's working well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Macca. What he does give you is an honest performance every week, and that's all you can ask.
Yep.
Sam Gibson, 25 touches, 14 and 11, 5 marks, 3 tackles, 4 inside 50s, 2 clearances, 10 contested, but only went at 56 disposal efficiency, and it was very, very noticeable. 6 score involvements, 4 turnovers. I felt Sam was one of our biggest culprits with regards to wasting possession.
Well, I think that's true because I thought he actually played a good game. Apart from that, and that, of course, that does mar his game. His job was to slow their midfield down, or in particular, Canelio. He certainly did do that. And in terms of disposal, no, he had a reputation of being a poor disposer of the ball, so that hasn't changed.
Now, just on your earlier point, Macca, where you said the bad coaching move was McKay to the half-back line and Miller up forward.
I stand by that.
It was actually Gibson to half-forward line, or the half-back line. Yeah, no. He was playing off the half-back line. He started he would come on and he was actually tagging somebody on their half-forward line, so that's why we had Miller up forward. It's actually more that, because we've played McKay and Miller off that half-back line. The change-up was actually putting Gibson back there.
Nope.
We had to move somebody out, and we moved Miller up forward.
Well, the coach agreed that he did it.
Yeah, I don't think you're right, Nick.
You there, Nikki?
Yeah, that's what I saw. I was at the game. We had a normal backline, except for Gibson.
Well, congratulations, Nikki. None of us saw it, obviously.
Or Pikey.
Well, why was he playing in the back lines?
Well, because
Gibson was playing on the wing.
No. He wasn't at the start. He was playing off the half back line.
Okay.
That was when we weren't doing when we weren't having we had, when he came on, we had Seesman on one wing and Atkins on the other. He wasn't on a wing. He was on the half back line in the first half. We changed it up in the second half.
Yeah, well, the point that was made was that Miller was wasted up forward, and I agree with that, irrespective.
That was the point.
Huey Greenwood tried hard, I think, 9 kicks, 11 handballs for 20, 3 marks, 7 tackles, 4 inside 50s, 4 clearances, 17 contested posies, went at 70%, which is good for Hugh. 6 score involvements, 5 intercepts. I just felt like another honest performance from Hugh, but part of an imbalanced midfield, I think.
Can't add any more to that, yeah.
Yeah, he just needs to learn to keep between the two really big sticks. That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be nice. He started off all right. When he first started, he was kicking goals.
Yeah, they were a bit closer. I mean, admittedly, his 2 tonight, there was a bit of pressure on one of them, and the second one was probably at his furthest distance. And he tried to keep it low. He did the right thing. It's just, a bit to the left side, which, funny enough, whether you're a left footer.
Yeah. Richie Douglas, 19 touches, 11 and 8, 2 goals, 4, 3 tackles, 7 inside 50s. What else have we got? 11 contested possessions, only went at 52.5%, unfortunately, for Richie, but 13 score involvements. I just felt like Richie, over the last couple of weeks, is trying really hard, which you can't knock. But he just seems to be unable to finish his work at the moment.
He's a bit of both. You're quite right. I think that you can't criticise his efforts. Efforts are very good. Results aren't always good. And sometimes he kicks a magic one out of his backside. So, as comments, Dougie was serviceable, and he certainly was.
He kept us in it in that first quarter. He was the one who was just causing as much havoc as he could down there, and a lot of that pressure. And him going off in that last quarter hurt us.
It did actually, Nikki.
Yep. Cam Ellis-Yeoman, as I made the comment yesterday, I feel like he's just about run out of gas. Probably gagging for that bye. 18 touches, 6 and 12. Only the 3 tackles this week. 8 clearances, though, which is this go, obviously. 13 contested possessions. 72% disposal efficiency, 5 stoppage and 3 centre clearances. But again, the knock I have on Cam, and I'm a fan, he doesn't get us anywhere. He only 120 metres gained for the night. As I said, he's trying really hard. I just feel like he's running out of gas.
Well, he's one guy you never ever criticise for lack of effort, but I didn't like his game. It was, overall, as you said, it didn't achieve a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, that's how you saw it, Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tommy today, I thought, tried pretty hard. Had the 18 touches, 9 and 9, 3 tackles, a couple of clearances, 4 rebound 50s, 8 contested possessions, a little bit down on disposal efficiency, but 8 1%ers, gained 303, 6 intercept possessions, but 8 turnovers. So
yeah, he should have had more intercepts. His timing was, for me, this was a Duday bad game because his timing was just that little bit off, and he'd go for those marks and they'd just slip through his hands straight into Cameron's hand and kick a goal, or straight into somebody else's hand and kick a goal, and it's just like, Tommy's having a bad game. It was going to happen at some stage.
Certainly did a very crucial one at a crucial stage.
Wasn't our worst defender, I don't think. Now,
his overall game wasn't too bad.
No, but that was a bad game for him.
Yeah,
but a couple of serious errors. Yeah.
Now, I want your opinions on Paul Seedsman. 7 kicks, 9 handballs for 16 possessions. Kicked 2 goals. 3 inside.
2 of him.
Sorry?
There were 2 of him. The first half and the second half.
I haven't finished yet. Oi, just wait.
Quality.
You know how this works. I go through it and then I ask you.
I thought you.
No, I'm sorry. Isn't this how this works? That we just interrupt you?
Oh,
I thought that's how this works.
No, here we go. Hang on a minute. Right, this is the CrowCast weekend wrap without Macca and Nikki because I've just muted them. Now, Paul Seedsman, 2 goals. He had 2 tackles, 3 inside 50s, 3 clearances, 2 rebound 50s, 11 contested possessions, win at 75%. Only the 300 metres gained. And as I unmute my cohorts, what are your thoughts on Seed this week, guys?
As I said, 2 of him. The first half, he was very, very good. First half, he was very, very good, I thought, and very damaging. And the second half, he was just non-existent. Never saw him.
When he kicked that goal down this northern end, when he ran back, feeling his groin.
Bingo. You win the prize, Nikki.
What did Nikki say? I couldn't catch
He was feeling his groin.
Yeah.
Ah.
Take your finger off the button,
he still actually did some good runs and he did some good pressure and some chase downs, but he wasn't as proactive.
He's not right.
It was more the reactive runs that was going on.
He's not right. I'm telling you right now, he's not right, in my opinion. Is that pelvic issue is back for Seed, and I swear to God, if they run him into the ground like they've done Crouchy, we're going to be in a lot of strife. He spent a lot of time getting that injury right.
Well, that bloody idiot Burt never. I heard it. he's now defending the pre-season what we did with Brad Crouch. They said, do you think you maybe gave him too much work? And this is probably I'm relating this to Seedsman as well. And Burton again. No, we think we did it just right, and the guy gets. I am so sick of Burton.
Yeah, I don't have any mail on Seed, but my own eyes told me that he's not right. Eddie Betts, 8 and 7 for 15, took a mark, flew for 600 marks, 2 goals, 2 for Eddie, 2 goal assists, a clearance, 10 contested possessions, only went at 60%, 10 score involvements. 2 things I'd say about Eddie. He has got to stay down. He actually flew for a mark that cost us a goal because the ball rebounded, and it was because he didn't stay down to crumb the ball. And secondly, he's got to straight line the ball. He's missing too much because he's not concentrating. He's taking his eyes off the ball and he's not straight lining it. He's going with one hand and all the rest of it. I know it's the way that Eddie operates, but when your touch is off, you've got to get back down to basics. And to me, even though he had a reasonable game last week against Melbourne, I just feel like his touch is off, and he's got to concentrate a bit more, I believe. I
think you're right. When you aren't really firing at your very, very best, then it is the thing to do is go back to the very basics of the game, and he should be front and centre. Front and square, so he's sharking the balls as it comes off hand, and we certainly can't do that if you're flying in the air off balance and crashing all over the place.
It was really interesting. It was kind of interesting, just the contrast between the Bulldogs game, those goals he was kicking in those conditions, and yet almost perfect conditions tonight. And they just weren't working for him. He got some bloody horrendous bounces, which kind of doesn't help a little bit. But I think you're kind of spot on, Phoenix. He did fly for somewhere. He should have stayed down. And I don't know what was going on with him and Murphy. I don't think there was as good cohesion as we've actually had with the other guys.
Poor old Lockie's in and out of the team. He probably doesn't know where to stand.
Well, it seemed to me that Lockie was working much further up the ground than Eddie was.
Yeah, he was.
Eddie was around the goals, and Murph was running around somewhere between half forward and the wing.
Look, as for the rest,
but they were also dragging us up high.
As for the rest, I thought Miller did well in patches when he was played correctly. 12 and 2 for 14, 6 marks. 4 inside 50s, 3 rebound 50s, 6 contested possession, only 50%, disposal efficiency, 6 turnovers, but gained 377 metres. I just want him off half back. Josh Jenkins, I feel like Jenkins is actually being set up to fail at the moment because our lack of marking power up forward just means that they just climb all over JJ at the moment. But I don't think he does himself any favours sometimes. 10 and 3, 6 marks, 1 goal, 3, 5 tackles, 8 hit-outs.
Still really liked his physicality this year. That has gone up so much. And he was fighting so hard to keep that ball down there.
And
even when it was in the midfield as well.
Working hard as well. I mean, he was on the ground for 90% of the time, so he's really only coming off for a spell after he replaces Sauce for those few minutes.
And which is why he would do the centre bounce, and then Cam Ellis-Yeoman would do around the ground.
Yeah.
But because we knew he couldn't do it.
But this rucking situation, and let's look at Sauce, this rucking situation is now becoming an issue, in my opinion. Because notwithstanding the hit-outs numbers, I just felt like Rory Lodd had Sam's measure for most of the game. Sam had 6 and 5 for 11. He had the 38 hit-outs, 3 tackles, 4 inside 50s, 5 clearances. Look, I don't know. I just, like, the stats are pretty even, but the eye test told me that Sauce got handed another beating. Is that how you guys saw it?
He had some moments, but overall, Lob is really a make-do ruckman. Lob is really basically a forward-line player that's been converted into a ruckman through necessity. And put this way, I thought this was Sauce's week to dominate, and he didn't. So, and also Lob always looked a little bit more dangerous because he's more mobile. So, yeah, unfortunately.
It was Lob's work up forward because he is, as you just said, Macca, a forward, and he was getting away from Sam down there, and that's what was causing issues. Sam needed to be closer to him.
It did cause issues, Nicky. You're quite right, and he is becoming a bit of a problem.
Yeah,
and I think they haven't. We don't have anything to lose, I think, by giving the young bloke a go.
Well, Don in his presser pre-game was asked about Sam and whether he needed a break, and his response was, no, Sam just needs to find some form. So
we'll send him back to the SANFL then.
Well, that's what my reaction was, Nikki. Isn't that what happens when people lose form when there's a ready-made replacement? I don't know why he's still getting picked. Anyway, look,
the other one who unfortunately I think also needs to be sent back is Kelly. As much as I love him, the past couple of weeks, I think he needs to go back to the SANFL.
Very average. No longer looks reliable. But the problem is his replacement really is Kyle Chaney, and I don't think Chaney's back yet, is he?
Yeah, I think he's back and playing, isn't he?
No, I don't know.
No idea.
It's hard to bloody tell half the time. Look, Luke Brown was just a so-so sort of a game. I thought Fogarty played well in parts. Obvious talent, as we've pointed out millions of times, but we certainly cannot rely on an 18-year-old kid to be our linchpin up forward. Speaking of lynches, I thought Tom Lynch was almost our worst today from the standing captain. This is a guy, Tom Lynch, who is renowned for running up and down the ground and being our link player and all the rest of it. 6 kicks, 4 handballs for 10. Only took 1 mark for the game, 3 tackles, 3 contested possessions, went at 50% disposal efficiency. Only had 3 score involvements, only gained 156 metres. This is from the guy that runs the length of the ground as our link player, and 2 turnovers. Has he pulled the pin? Or is he just out of touch?
He's certainly out of touch. I don't know about the first one, but
and then he got a whack in the ribs.
Well, I was just going to say...
And when he went off, I'm like, this actually might benefit us.
Was that Douglas that hit him?
No, I don't know. I haven't seen the contest, but towards the end of the third quarter, he goes off, and he was really struggling.
It certainly was one of our own men that did it, and they got him just, in the abdomen, they're saying.
The club's calling it side strain.
Side strain my arse. He got a great big whack in there. And
yeah, it's not a strain, it's an impact injury in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Hardigan tried hard but didn't really have much impact. Lockie Murphy flashes but didn't really have an impact. Not that you'd expect much from your 5-game player. So, I mean, really, as far as
Talia was Talia once again.
So, I was going to finish off with Tails, sorry. I thought Talia battled hard. Did a lot of
good game by
things. Thought he actually took more than 6 marks. It looked like he took more than 6 marks. I felt like Talia played pretty well. Although, at the moment the back six look like they've lost confidence in each other, and the front half.
We're playing Talia high. we're playing him very high. And so he was on Patton,
Yeah,
and Hardigan was on Cameron.
Yeah, Patton was running around all over the place.
Mm.
Yeah, but Patton runs to the wrong bloody spot, so...
Well, they had Patton actually in defence at one stage. Our back six just looks stagnant. It lacks any sort of creativity. We're certainly not aggressive in our rebound. We just don't have the players at the moment that will rebound the ball off half back. So our movement, on the turnover doesn't. It's not as fluent, and it doesn't. I doubt whether it would strike fear into the opposition. And our forward half just is an absolute mess. Just an absolute mess. There's not much more that can be said about that. We don't have a focal point. Josh Jenkins is not a focal point. He'll drag 2 or 3 players with him, but he's not gonna be the answer. And Darcy tries hard, but Darcy also plays fairly high, and he's only a kid, so I guess maybe we shouldn't bag Eddie for trying to take hangers, because he's apparently our key forward.
Yeah, but
yeah, pretty much.
PJ does make a very good point about our defence, in the sense that because the midfield generally getting beaten, or there's a few classy players in the opposition bringing the ball in, they're getting put under a lot of pressure non-stop. So
that's very true.
And when you also consider then you get the coaches moving players around at the same time, well, it doesn't really help to have a coordinated backline.
And Nikki, can you confirm, because it looked to me on the TV that Cameron was trying to do very much what Goodwin did the week before. They were very lateral GWS. They were really trying to get to that fat side of the ground and switch the ball around to different lanes quite often, and it looked like they were really trying to expose our inability to spread and cover the ground.
Yep, spot on. And that third quarter when we were holding them up, that's what we did. We pressured them, we kept them, we controlled them into the one space where we always had manned up that outlet. And once we swapped over our slower players, we couldn't do it anymore. So that's where our issue became. It was also when they were doing quite well around the clearance, it was getting Shield free. Every single time.
God, he's a good player.
He is. He's so good. I did quite like at one stage, though, they'd kept one player at the back and they were always getting it. And I'm trying to remember who pointed it out, and I think it might have actually been Cam. And he's just like pointing at the others going, you need to go and stand there. And as soon as we did, we stopped that. But, in a way that's good that Cam did it, but it's poor that the other senior ones didn't notice it. Oh, hang on, cat fight going on next to me.
Well, I mean, that's a point that Macca's raised in the past, and I think it's valid again this week, Macca, isn't it? The lack of leadership on the ground.
Who is the leader on the ground?
It's supposed to be Lynch.
Supposed to be. There's none there. Talia is doing his best from the back lines, but and he's not officially a leader, but I think he shows at least some leadership. But around the ground, I don't see any leadership. I don't see any leadership up forward. And the absence of Walker and Sloan is bigger than just their games. It's the impact they have on the other players in terms of both leadership and confidence. And at the moment, their loss is massive.
Well, who would you say are the assertive players in our team? I mean, up forward, we don't have an assertive personality type, in my opinion. Down back, you'd say that Talia is quite an assertive person. Also, I think Luke Brown is quite an assertive person. In the midfield, though, again, we have players that play assertively, but their demeanour and their personalities aren't. I don't think Huey Greenwood is an assertive guy. Richard Douglas as a senior player certainly isn't. I don't think Sauce is either. We have a lot of passive personality types. And the blokes that do take the bull by the horns are currently sitting on the pine.
Well, the most aggressive one there is probably Greenwood, but he's only really a second-year player.
Yeah,
you can't put that on him. I
do think that it is Cam and Greenwood in the midfield, because you actually had Cam doing a lot of leadership stuff when he was out with his knee. And I could see just being at those SNFL games and him just yelling and being assertive and actually being quite proactive about it. And that I've noticed that in little snippets this season that he's directing the others. And,
and
that reflects poorly. That reflects poorly on
does.
those other senior players.
Well, and I'm not knocking Cam, but he's marginal in the sense that if we had all of our midfielders available, he might not be getting the game. So you can't have a bloke at that level as your leader. It's got to be somebody who's going to be a regular and also an example on the field as well. And there's not too many of them there. And Lynch, for example, at the moment as a captain, well, not non-existent, absolutely non-existent as a captain.
Well, Bryce Gibbs is another one, and Bryce is another passive kind of guy. But he's a 200 gut.
Very quiet.
Yeah, but these blokes have got to step up. Bryce has got to step up. Sam Gibson is a player with a lot of AFL experience. He's got to step up. Richie Douglas. These blokes have to stand up. They are the leaders on the field, and we've played like a rudderless ship since Tech's gone down. And I think it's indicative of how much influence and how much Tex holds that team together and holds structures together, and how he sees the game. And we miss him terribly. We have absolutely no impetus on the ground whatsoever at the moment.
Yep, totally agree with you. Totally agree.
Well, let's go to our awards, shall we? Because I don't think we can talk any more about that without overdoing it. So, first of all, we'll talk about who our best first-year player was. Yeah, probably out of Dude and maybe Millerer. Probably out of those. Oh, and I guess the two lads in the middle. What do you reckon?
I actually really like Fogg's performance. I mean, Duday, for me, this was a bad game for him. I think his standard that he's been set at is quite high, and for me, this probably wasn't a great game from him. Miller did some quite effective things, but as you said, his actual disposal efficiency was a bit down on what we would like it to be. To me, I just really liked what Fogg showed, and he just kept presenting and he kept working. That's who I'd go with.
Mac, what do you reckon?
I'm happy to go with Nicky on that one because although he didn't have a billion possessions of that, there was no doubt he worked his ass off, and he competed really, really way above his years. I mean, I thought he was very good, actually.
Yeah. Look, I think you make some good points. He's been asked to play a senior role in a depleted forward line, and I think he's doing the best he can. And for a young kid like that to be doing what he's doing so early in his career, he deserves our Breakout of the Week award.
Yep.
I don't know whether it's even worth it, but why don't we talk about our Jet of the Week award?
You're gonna get what you need. Gonna get what you need. You're gonna get what you need. Gonna get what you need. You're gonna get what you need.
Probably Brycey, I'd imagine. I thought Tales played well. Douglas tried hard.
Gibbs outstanding. He gets it.
To me, it would have been between Talia and Gibbs. I think Talia was consistent over the 4 quarters. Gibbs was a little bit in and out, but when he went bunter in that last quarter, that was just a joy to watch.
Last half, Nicky, he had 10 positions in the third quarter as well.
Yeah, but that real that spark he did at that start of that last quarter was just so noticeable.
He tried to get us over the line, yeah.
Now, the next one, the Wake Up Award, I think there's going to be a few candidates, but first, me and Nicky need a headbang for a second. Right, continue.
Do we have it? Well, it depends whether we have an exit award or not. Do we have an exit award?
Oh, look, I mean, to me, the key players this week are Tom Lynch, Jake Kelly, Rory Atkins.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, actually, I think it's Lynchy. He's captaining the team, and he started off well, and then just I don't know where he went.
Well,
Didn't really notice him out there.
Given the fact that he was injured for half the game,
No, he was injured for a quarter and the last 5 minutes of the third quarter.
Yeah, he had 62% time on ground.
Yeah, but he came back again after he was injured.
For 5 seconds.
No, I don't think he did.
Yeah, he did for one possession and he came straight back off again.
He did. But, look, yeah, I just hated Atkins' game so much that my vote would have been for him. But it's hard to argue against Lynch either. Because Lynch was supposed to be the captain and he was a very ordinary captain.
Yeah, let's make no mistake. This was a big game for Adelaide. Coming off such a big loss with top eight aspirations on the line, let alone top 4. We're playing at home against a team who's been down for a month. We had to respond, and Tom Lynch was leading that side, and Tom Lynch had 10 touches. He's supposed to be the guy that is our link man, our conduit from defence to attack, and he had 10 possessions at 50%. So my vote and the casting vote goes to Tommy Lynch this week.
He's pulling the cockwomble.
I love living in a democracy.
Totally a democracy.
Underground, overground, wombling free.
Nick?
I actually need some nominations here because I've been out of the loop.
You want us to do your work for you now?
I do, because I have one of my second to last final uni assignment due tomorrow. So I've been working on that one. After 6 fucking years, it's almost done. So I just haven't seen anything all this week. And there was also probably because of the shit result that happened last Sunday.
I've got 2 nominations. Our fitness department.
That was in the chat. That was the nomination from the chat.
Well, there was one of mine also because they have wrecked our season. Absolutely bloody wrecked our season. And it's not inconceivable we could miss the finals altogether. And the irony is, we thought when we got that first round pick from Melbourne, they'll be down the bottom and we'll get very close to the, a very low, a very early pick off of Melbourne. Could be the other way around. It could be Melbourne's could be the one that's way out there and ours could be the one right down there. So, fitness department, you deserve a massive kick up the arse. And Burton, you are stop getting on the radio and saying that, as far as you're concerned, that you did it right. You did not do it right, you stupid bastard. If you can't recognise it, just piss off. I am sick of him. I am so sick of him. Get him out of here.
I reckon that sums it up. Macca's fired up.
I am.
You had a second one, didn't you?
Yes.
No, that was Burton. Burton got one on his own.
Then the second one was that stupid bloody idiot. What's his bloody name? I'll have to argue back, Mrs. Mac. I'm so wound up about him. Dermot bloody Burton. He just kept carrying on about the bloody free kick count. When he's commentating when we are playing in Victoria and we're getting absolutely done like a bloody dinner with the bloody free kicks, we do not hear a effing word out of that stupid prick. But he was carrying on and on about the bloody free kicks. And the other pointed out, and he kept saying, when you come to this ground, certainly the umpires, give it to the home team. And at least Rashido had the decency to say, well, there's a few grounds like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But it went over
shut him up quickly.
But it went over his stupid head. He's so up himself, that bloke. He's almost inside out. He's so far over.
We sacked his best mate, Airzy, and he used to coach GWS, and they're still his love child because he still goes up there and does special coaching for the Macca.
Yep.
Remember that. Remember that. They're his boys. They're the AFL love child.
Yeah.
I'd like to nominate the Adelaide Football Club in general because a few things have happened over the last month. Campbell Brown mentioned that Brad Crouch was going in for surgery and was going to be out for the season. There was a massive uproar, and as a consequence, the club told all and sundry, including us, that a lot of what was going on in the media was a load of baloney. And then, thanks to one of our fine friends, we got this on Tuesday night. Brad Crouch, and again, from information gained from somebody who has provided very good information for us before. Brad Crouch won't play again this season. He's can't run more than 50 metres without being sore. Apparently the only reason he got through last season was because they tried some experimental injections to ease the nerve pain, but he's worse than he was last season. He won't play again, and that's terrible news if true. And now,
But on top of that, there's also the risk that he may not play again.
Hang on, Macca. Brett Burton came out after the last uproar and said that he was offended by people questioning the club, and swore black and blue that Crouchy, was on the mend and all the rest of it. And then 2 days after, even little old CrowCast announced the news that Brad's going under the knife, we finally get an announcement from the club that Brad Crouch is in fact going under the knife. I've been told from a couple of people that Brad Crouch has already gone under the knife. I can't confirm that. But it's a massive cockwomble nomination for me to the Adelaide Football Club for treating us all like bloody idiots and putting themselves up as being unaccountable and untouchable. It's about time that Burton and Haas and Fagan and Rashudo took responsibility for the mess that's going on down there this year.
Absolutely. That is my whole point. And our club has always had a reasonably good credibility image, but at the moment we are the laughing stock of the whole AFL industry, because everything we say is queried as being bullshit.
Do you remember, Macca, that one of the reasons put up for us forming Crows Media was because we were getting an absolute pasting from the media, and the Crows wanted to, in their words, control the message coming out of the club and to provide the members with accurate information.
Correct.
Now, I'm calling bullshit on that, because what they've actually tried to do is manipulate everybody by only releasing information that they want to release. So we've gone back to this situation now where journalists across Australia know that there's stuff going on behind the scenes at Adelaide. They know that the messages coming out of Crows Media are either inaccurate, not complete, or just flat out misinformation. So they're going to start digging again.
Well, exactly. When you've got somebody with the IQ of Campbell Brown announcing that way before the club, when the club's still denying it, saying that Crouchy's going to have this operation and he won't be playing again this year, and the club's still denying it, and then the next week he's on the show again and he repeats it again, and he proves to be right, and that means the club was just bullshitting and lying. When
a freaking Neanderthal like Campbell Brown
and a
piddly little podcast like CrowCast, notwithstanding we're the best Crows.
Don't insult Neanderthals.
We're the best podcast on the Adelaide Crows going around. When, niche media outlets, if you want to call us that, can get access to this information, what the hell is going on at the club? Why do they continue to want to treat us like idiots? We can see just with our naked eyes what's going on, but when it gets confirmed that the club is bullshitting to us, then I think they really need to have a look at how they're treating their supporter base. And again, it smacks of customers, it smacks of agitators, it smacks of all those words that we heard a few years ago from the previous regime that we were promised was going to be replaced by a more proactive, and a more inclusive regime, and it certainly doesn't feel like that at the moment. And I would say to Andrew Fagan and Ian Shuttleworth down there that even if everything that we're saying is a big load of shit, the fact that this is how we feel as a supporter base means that they have messed up and they need to address it.
Well,
my nomination was actually going to be the way that they tried to manipulate it. They released that information regarding Crouch, and then, at least 5 minutes later, there was the big splashy thing, oh, Fogarty's signed on. It's like, you've been hanging on to that for how long, waiting for something shit to release so you can then release that. They've done this before. We see it. It's such an obvious pattern.
Yeah.
You're right, Nikki. You're right.
And look, we deserve and expected better from Rashudo and Fags and those blokes. And they're all good people, don't get me wrong. And we might be barking up the wrong tree with some of the stuff that we're saying. But the only reason the only reason we're barking, Macca, is because something smells and because the club is being disingenuous. So
if it smells like shit and it looks like shit, it is shit.
Well, as I said, the message to the club from us, and certainly from a lot of people that I've spoken to, and a lot of people that listen to this podcast, and a lot of people that read Big Footy, is that even if we're wrong, we're still right because we're feeling this way. This is how the club is making us feel as a supporter base. So they need to address it. Something needs to change down there because the path that they've gone down is not working.
Well, I think that what you're nominating wins because it includes Burton, it includes the so-called geniuses who provide our our fitness program, and it includes the people that are covering it up. What's really happening? So, yeah.
And I'm going to take this further, Macca, because one of the reasons I might have sounded a bit distracted early in the cast is because I was receiving a number of text messages from our good mate Peter, who joins us on Tuesday Night Live. And the content of those text messages and the information that he's privy to that he'll be revealing on Tuesday Night Live is going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. So everyone that's listening, tell your mates, your Crow supporting mates, and make sure you tune in on Tuesday night, because what Pete's got is a terrible indictment on this footy club.
Geez, you said enough to get me to come back Tuesday night.
Sorry, Mac. Anyway, I hate to end it on that note, but enough's enough. And, you know, we love the club and we've had a good relationship with the club, and hopefully we'll continue to have a good relationship with the club. But, you know, we are a podcast for the fans, by the fans, and I think it's legitimate of us to raise concerns and to air concerns when they're present. And there's certainly some shit going on at the moment.
Well, the club has created this image, not us.
Exactly,
we have not created anything. All we do is we sit here like bloody vegetables, and we get fed information by the club, and then we get fed information by people out there who are closer to the scene or close to the scene and know that what's being said is bullshit, and they're the ones that nominate it. And then we think, well, who's talking bullshit? But then when the actual deeds are done, and somebody like Crouch then goes under the knife when he was never going to go under the knife, and he was going to play in 2 or 3 weeks and all that sort of shit, then we realise who really is talking the bullshit. And also then bloody Burton coming out on radio and saying he's offended. You're offended, mate. You're offended. We're bloody absolutely offended by you stuffing up the whole year for us as supporters. We pay our money, we support the club, and you just stuff it up, and then you get offended. Well, F off.
Club gets it.
And on that note, because Macca made me go through my outro music twice then.
Sorry about that, mate.
We better call it. We better. No, I love your passion, mate, as always, and same with you, Nick. Look, we'll call it a night there. Don't forget, tune in on Tuesday night. It's going to be a massive night. Tweet us on AFL CrowCast, Facebook AFL CrowCast. Listen in on demand anytime, aflcrowcast.com. Give us a rating on iTunes if that's where you listen. Thanks everyone in the chat. Thanks Macca and Nikki. Farewell.
Night all.
Yeah, night all.